I'm a fighter. I can take a punch. I live. I learn something every day. I strike when I need to strike. I prepare. I've earned everything I have. If I fall, I get back up. I won't be underestimated. I'm Ariade, and I put the boom into boom bust.
Russia today can be heard in English. Do we have an equivalent that can be heard in Russian? That's a pretty expensive proposition. They're spending huge amounts of money with speaking languages that other people understand and putting out information that other people understand in other countries around them. And we're not.
Hello there, welcome back to RT International. This building in Chicago is shrouded in mystery and has been dubbed a CIA-style black site within the United States. Now, according to an investigation by British newspaper The Guardian, the compound was used by a special police unit for secret work, including the interrogation of terror suspects. Anita Nawa, she took a closer look in her show In the Now.
Just like CIA black sites, it uses specific methods to get information from detainees. It's been alleged that some people, some of those held, were as young as 15 years old, held for hours without legal consent. Their arms and legs shackled, prisoners beaten by police officers, prevented from making phone calls, and attorneys denied access to the facility. The arrestees are also kept out of official booking databases. Well, The Guardian says they were denied access to the secret facility. Chicago police deny the accusations. The facility is not even secret, they say. All documents and files are in place, and it's not used to violate suspects' rights. Former CIA officer Jack Rice is in the Now with us. Jack, have you ever heard of Homan Square and this facility?
Well, I have heard of it. I don't have any personal knowledge of it, but I have to tell you, I've had experience and I've heard from others around the country that things like this can happen in the United States, and that is one of the disturbing stories that's out there that's tied to this.
What you're finding in the United States is you're seeing a militarization of the police departments in the U.S. I can simply take you to Denver, I can take you to St. Paul, I can take you to New York. You'll see that they dress differently, the kind of equipment they're carrying is different. It's very military-esque.
Sweden's economy has been hit by concerns over fuel, but not the battered oil price though. Rather, it's people stealing from the pumps, just like in this video here. So they're filling up their cars at petrol stations and then driving off without paying. And the phenomenon is far more widespread in the country than you might think. A new report suggests some 50,000 Swedes leave petrol stations without paying, a petty crime which, however, costs fuel companies more than $5 million a year. Criminal gangs are active too, stealing diesel from vehicles across the country. Swedish police say there were 10,000 cases last year with losses of nearly $12 million. My colleague Tabang Motsei, she earlier spoke to the author of the research, and he thinks the police could prevent such crime, but they don't have the will to do so.
The police and the industry don't agree that the level of the crime is big enough, and we don't have taken these measures. But as a managing director for our branch, I'm trying to do everything in my power to get different precautions measures taken. But we do have a big problem that the police in Sweden do not take these kind of crimes seriously. They view at these crimes as lesser crimes, and therefore they don't give them any priority at all. The police in Sweden, they only investigate about 5% of all the police reports that we are sending into them. And that is, in my view, not acceptable.
Would that have any repercussions in terms of the oil industry in general?
Well, it's have few consequences for the oil industry in Sweden. And the reason for that is because retailers will take all the damage. The big companies and the oil industry in Sweden do not have any bigger consequences. So therefore, we don't have any action from the oil companies or the police or the society.
Not your average police chase captivated America's media on Thursday, with channels broadcasting live pictures from Arizona.
The Great Llama Watch 2015.
There's a llama chase underway.
They know if they get split up, kind of like Bonnie and Clyde.
To watch it live from an aerial point of view.
Right.
Major networks interrupted their news coverage to watch two llamas galloping through the streets, thwarting local authorities' attempts to capture them. The black llama, I should say, was a little less agile there and was the first to be caught. His companion had several more minutes of freedom, though, before being taken into custody as well. CNN went as far as inviting a real llama into the studio for an interview.
I'm Don Lemon with Pierre. Oh, sorry, Pierre. Thanks for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
The internet, of course, went head over heels, as you can imagine, for this incident. Now, this map shows how the llama drama quickly became one of the biggest trending topics on Twitter. Some were calling for all local llamas to be freed so that the uprising could continue. Another user hoped people won't blame the episode on Islamation, sort of. You get where we're going with that. And this tweet offers you a piece of llama life advice. Now, you can find more about the llama saga at rt.com. Also there, how one US senator tried to disprove global warming with some hard evidence in the form of a snowball fight. And astronomers say that one of the solar system's dwarf planets appears to be looking back at them, thanks to a pair of brightly glowing spots that resemble eyes. More details on our website. Washington is hosting a second round of US-Cuba talks on Friday. In December, the two countries agreed to put their differences behind them.
Today, the United States of America is changing its relationship with the people of Cuba.
We have decided to restore diplomatic relations.
The media appears to be enthusiastic about the calming tensions. CNN here is predicting a new era of bilateral relations. Others believe both sides are optimistic about the talks, and this headline calls the warming between the two a historic breakthrough. But there are still a number of sticking points. America's decades-old trade embargo with Cuba is still actually in place. Washington hasn't taken Havana off of its state sponsors of terrorism list either. And American companies want a payback for assets that were nationalized by Cuba back in the 50s. Anti-embargo campaigner Gloria La Riva, she thinks that there's still a long way to go before relations are normal.
I believe that the process toward true normalization of relations, that is the lifting of the genocidal blockade against Cuba by the United States, as well as other measures that have been harming Cuba, it will be a long process because the U.S. Insists on keeping the blockade. But the world's people, 188 countries in the United Nations, and people who have themselves, independent of governments, have demanded the lifting of the blockade of Cuba, will be the biggest factor, I think. I think the U.S. has become isolated in Latin America. It's the reason why they agreed to the normalization of diplomatic relations. Cuba has every right in its demands, and the U.S. keeps wanting to insist on onerous demands and intervention of Cuba's internal affairs, which is not acceptable.
Violent clashes between rival student groups erupted at Ankara University in Turkey. Nationalist and left-wing activists threw items of furniture, sticks and stones at each other. Several students were injured during the process and more than 40 arrested. A security guard was also hurt, apparently after being shot by his own gun. It's not clear at the moment how exactly that happened. Dozens of police officers quickly arrived at the scene and dispersed the crowd. A wave of bombings has hit Cairo, leaving at least one person dead and 7 injured. Officers say 4 bombs targeted residential areas and a police station in the Egyptian capital. Authorities have blamed Islamist militants for the attacks. Scuffles broke out in Mexico City as riot police struggled to disperse a crowd of protesters there. Thousands rallied against what they call corruption and brutality within the police force. The demonstration was led by parents of 43 students who went missing 5 months ago. The protesters claim they were arrested and then handed over to a criminal gang and then killed. Coming up on RT then, it's Boom Bust with Erin Aid. Stay with us.